WatchMaestro fan, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to take you through some of the most important things for you to consider when you're going to buy your very first Datejust. It's one of those watches that pretty much any watch enthusiast almost starts with, or if they don't start with it, at some point, you're going to probably own a Datejust one way or another. So I'm going to tell you some of the things you need to consider if you haven't bought your Datejust just yet and are thinking about having one in the future. But before I give you away all of my secrets, I want you to make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. And also, if you want to buy, sell, or trade your watches, you know where to come, WatchMaestro.com. Now, let's get straight into it. So, a couple of things to consider when you are going to buy your first Datejust. The first one is the size of the watch. You can get them generally in either 36mm or 41mm. Now let's get into some examples. So here's a good one. We've got almost identical in terms of watch features. So we've got a 41 here, smooth bezel with oyster bracelet. This is a 41. This one here is a 36. Same thing, almost the same dial, slight differences, but you can see the size difference there between these two. Now, what's the difference between the sizes? So the 36mm is more of a classic size. That's what Rolex started with regards to their releases of the Datejust. They started with the 36mm, and then eventually down the track, they released the 41mm. So if you want to have kind of that more original look, more vintage look, if you're a little bit more of a purist kind of thing, you would probably choose the 36mm. But it also obviously depends on your wrist size as well. I mean, there was a reason why they brought out the 41mm, because people who were wearing it, they found that bigger watches maybe suited their wrist size a little bit better, or they just liked bigger watches. So if you like bigger watches, or if you have a bigger wrist, then maybe a 41mm is the way to go for you. So that's as far as the size concerned goes, right? Obviously, with the 41mm, because there is more watch, it tends to also be more expensive. So that's something to consider for yourself when looking at size-wise. Then you have the matter of the bracelet. So you've got essentially two main bracelets you can pick from, which is the oyster bracelet or the Jubilee bracelet. Now let's talk about the bracelets and how they matter and how they influence things. So the oyster bracelet is a little bit more of a sportier look. It's a little bit more of a tool watch look. It's more durable, and like I said, because it's a little bit more sort of a sportier look, it tends to not wear as well for more formal occasions, right? It's more for informal, more casual sort of places or occasions. So the Jubilee bracelet, the thing with it is, because it's a little bit more intricate, it tends to stretch a little bit more. It tends to need readjustment more often. Whereas the oyster bracelet is very simple, rugged and bulky and put together in a very solid way. So it doesn't tend to really stretch or anything like that. At least nowhere near as much as or as quick as a Jubilee bracelet would. So I guess that comes down to individual preference. Are you happy to be able to spend the money where required to fix the stretch on a Jubilee bracelet? Are you happy for that trade-off where it may look better for you in your own eyes and you're like, yep, that's fine, I don't care about it, I would prefer to just have the Jubilee bracelet? That's something for you to consider. The next thing to consider is the bezel of the watch. Now you can have two common bezels. You can have either a smooth bezel like this over here, or a fluted bezel like this one over here. Now the fluted bezel comes in different precious metals. So you can get it in white gold, you can get it in rose gold, you can even get it in yellow gold. The difference is simply that a smooth bezel tends to just look more sporty, right? More kind of casual. There is nothing blingy about it. There's nothing particularly attention grabbing about it. Whereas the fluted bezel is. My personal favorite, fluted bezel. I think it pops much more, especially under the right lights, like right now. I think it's beautiful. I don't really mind either way, like rose gold or not. I just prefer to have a fluted bezel. And the fluted bezel obviously costs a little bit more, so your cost will go up with a fluted bezel. And I think it's worth the extra cost. Same thing, even though they say a fluted bezel is more for like formal occasions, I think that it can be worn just as well and it will look just as nice formally or informally, but to each their own once again. Now, the other thing is that people don't tend to often consider is you can actually mix and match. So this is a smooth bezel with an oyster bracelet. So you would consider this, you know, quote unquote, completely casual, right? But you can mix and match, it's your preference. You can have a smooth bezel with a Jubilee bracelet or vice versa, if you feel that that suits your style a little bit better. But generally speaking, a bigger watch, 41 mil, is going to be more expensive. A Jubilee bracelet is going to be more expensive. A fluted bezel is going to be more expensive. So that's as far as those kind of factors that you need to consider. So the next thing to talk about is the dial of the watch. There are many different dials you can get when it comes to a Datejust, and this is important. For example, I mean, if we wanted to have all the dials that are possible, it would not fit here. There's just so many. But there are certainly some dials that are more desirable and some that are less desirable and not as popular. So, you know, you're looking here, for example, this is a chocolate dial with diamond setting. This would be more desirable usually and more popular than a white face with Roman numerals, right? Of course, as with anything, it's individual preference. Somebody might look at that and think this is the most beautiful watch in the world, and somebody might not like that at all, right? They might not be into the diamonds, they might not be into the color or anything like this. This color here, this beautiful mint green color, this is actually one of the more sought after dial colors. So this would fetch more. And coupled with the fact that it's a fluted bezel, coupled with the fact that it's a Jubilee bracelet, these will all make the price different to something like this, that is a white dial with Roman numerals, with a smooth bezel, with a oyster bracelet, right? Much different, even though they are the same model technically. They're both Datejust and they're both the same size. So dial is going to make a difference. And see, this one here is another beautiful one, a blue dial. This is really nice with the stick blue dial. This one would also fetch usually more than some of the other ones, like for example, the white dial. So dial is going to make a difference. The thing is, you got to understand, if you're looking to buy something to just wear for yourself, then just buy whatever you like, whatever you know you're going to enjoy, you're going to like looking at on your wrist, right? Whenever you have it, you put a smile on your face. Sometimes though, if you know you're going to buy it to down the track resell it, first of all, understand that it's a Datejust that you're buying. So in general, it's going to move faster anyway compared to a lot of other watches and a lot of other brands, right? And even a lot of other models of Rolex watches. Datejust are just generally highly sought after, and chances are it's going to move fairly fast. But with that being said, there are definitely going to be some configurations that will move much faster than certain other configurations, right? Like with us, with the type of clientele that we have, generally speaking, bigger Datejust, the 41 mil, tends to move a little bit faster than the smaller ones, right? So it just comes down to who you're looking to target and what you like at the end of the day. You got to put them all together. So that's as far as that's concerned. The other thing that will make a difference in regards to the price that you pay for your watch is if it has its full set of like box and papers. There can definitely be a huge difference, sometimes up to 20% difference in price if a particular watch, if a particular Datejust has its box and papers. Sometimes it's not even really that important because the watch can be authenticated. It's not necessarily that it's a fake watch, because you can get it authenticated and you can make sure that it's the real deal. However, certain people just put a lot of importance on having the box and papers just for the sake of the box and papers, especially if it's somebody who's a collector or whatever. It certainly gives you a little bit more peace of mind. Keep in mind though, even the papers these days can be faked. So don't just rely on a watch having box and papers thinking that, oh, it's got box and papers, so it's definitely a real deal, right? Always make sure you get your watches authenticated That's just my advice to anybody and everybody who's looking to pay their hard-earned money on a particular watch. It just makes sense. If you're going to spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on a watch, it makes sense to spend a couple of $100s to get it authenticated so you have your peace of mind. We've just seen too many scams come so many times over the years. So that's as far as the box and papers is concerned. And then finally, what you want to look at is the condition of the watch. So has the watch been kept pretty well, right? Is there scratches everywhere on the bracelet? If not, has it been polished? Maybe it was kept in a pretty bad way and it looks fine right now at first glance, but when you look closer, you see that it was polished. Why was it polished? How old is the watch? You know, in relation to its age, why was it polished? Maybe find out how many times it was polished if possible, right? If possible, it's a good idea to open the watch and get somebody who's an expert to have a look at things like the dial, because sometimes the dial itself can be changed. Sometimes parts of the watch can be fake or changed. So these are all very important as well. They make a big difference to the cost of the watch and also resale value. The other one, which I touched on sort of before, is the condition of the bracelet. Especially if you're getting something with a Jubilee bracelet, you want to make sure that there's not a lot of stretch on it. So for example, this bracelet over here, this is in mint condition. You can see how straight that is. It's perfect, right? But you see some other bracelets that are completely coming down, they're hanging down, they need to be retightened. So that is going to for sure affect the price of the watch that you are buying. And if you're going to sell it in that condition, it is for sure going to affect the price of the watch that you're going to sell. So those are some of the more important stuff that you need to consider when it comes to buying your very first Datejust. Probably the last thing I'll touch on is whether you want to buy a vintage or a more modern one. Again, this comes down to personal preference. Just understand, vintage, as nice as it is, I own a vintage Day-Date. I love it, but understand that with that comes the necessity to have money aside to be able to spend on some upkeep and maintenance and repair, right? Because it's an older watch, naturally, right? They look great if you're more of an enthusiast, like if you really like it, if you're a collector, and there is something that really speaks to you about a vintage Datejust, I totally understand. But just understand also that you're probably going to have to spend a little bit more to maintain that watch. If you want something that is modern, it's accurate, it works, you know, you can have a little bit more peace of mind. You don't really care about how old a particular watch is. You just want to have a Datejust, right, to tick that off the list, then just go for a modern one. It's less headache, they're built sturdy, right? It's newer, you know that it's going to not cost you almost anything, right? Even if it's not brand new, it's going to probably have been kept well, they work good, and they keep themselves well. So those are some of the basic things. Obviously, there are more things to consider when it comes to picking a Datejust, but these tips will get you through and make sure you're buying something that you can actually be happy with, you can wear, and keep a smile on your face, knowing that you made the right decision. So until next time, guys.